Week 41. If this show was a baby, it'd be born by now. It's this week in film.
It is a baby.
It's This Week in Film. The show is a weekly podcast where we come together, we talk about the movies we watched over the past week, and that's about it. I'm Nick Ferranto.
Hello.
Joined as always by RaysRayndomRayquest.
That's right.
No third person this week, Ray.
Nah, just us two boys, just talking movies.
Yep. Well, first up, I saw the new Star Trek movie, Star Trek Beyond.
Oh.
It's the third in the Bed Bath sequel or series of movies. And
Oh boy.
it answers all the questions from Star Trek Bath
And bed.
and Bed, yeah. I got to say that the movie was pretty good for about an hour and 15 minutes. And then the last 45 minutes, it just turns into like just an action movie, which is not really what you're looking for from a Star Trek movie.
Aren't they all like that, though?
Yeah, kind of.
Like, in my opinion, I mean, I haven't seen the third one, but the first two were just, they were good, not great.
I loved the first one, the 2009 one. I thought that movie was a ton of fun. And the characters were great. And I think it's a movie that lives on the acting of its characters. And this movie, well, let me go back. For instance, the 2009 Star Trek movie relaunch, if you're not aware, relaunches the Star Trek franchise from the 60s with Captain Kirk and Spock. And revamps all their characters, kind of. But I think it's the strength of the acting of the main characters that really nails the movie. Like, you could have put a bunch of bad actors in that movie and it would have been just a terrible sci-fi movie. But J.J. Abrams' direction and a fun, quick sci-fi adventure was perfect for what Star Trek needed to be at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Then Star Trek Into Darkness happened, which was a terrible movie. That was the absolute worst direction that the movie could have gone to, which was the remaking of the only other really great Star Trek movie, which is the Wrath of Khan. Exactly. And they try to remake it, and it just doesn't work out. And no Star Trek movie's climax should be Spock punching a guy on a floating ship going through San Francisco for 10 seconds. And then this movie, the new one, Star Trek Beyond, for about an hour, 15, maybe even an hour and a half, feels like a cool Star Trek movie where we're on this fun adventure. The cast is totally split up. They're all over this planet, and they have to find each other to, get together to save the day. But it kind of felt like a Marvel movie where the villain is real weak. It's just, oh, and we have this bad guy who you have to stop for seemingly
Who's
no
the
reason.
bad guy in this one?
The bad guy is played by Idris Elba.
Oh, okay.
He plays a guy named Crawl. And it's a menacing villain, but his motivations are very unclear. Other than the fact, I don't want to get into any spoilers, because it's definitely worth watching, but it could have been a lot better. But the movie was written by Simon Pegg and other guy, who Simon Pegg plays Scotty in the movie, and he's got, like, Simon Pegg's a total nerd. Star Trek is his bread and butter growing up. So this is about as Star Trek of a movie as you're ever going to get. Again, they have a new show coming out, I guess, next year, and maybe that'll get back to like Star Trek's roots about, like space tales, but they're really analogies for morality tales, or, difficult ethics questions. But because it's an alien race, you don't realize that you're thinking about, actual Earth problems.
Right.
But this movie is really just Captain Kirk is going to punch a guy in the face a few dozen times in order to win the war or to save the world. And it's kind of a shame because you could tell that within this movie that there was a chance for some difficult searching like that, like what happens after a war to soldiers and things like that. But like when war ends, when do soldiers become ambassadors of peace is basically what the story could have been, which is timely with what the United States is going through,
Right.
like with soldiers coming back from war zones and has been going on for some time. But instead, it's just Captain Kirk punching a guy in the face.
Were the action sequences like well done? Was it?
Oh yeah, it looks great. It looks really cool. There's this one really neat sequence when they're in this space station and like the gravity gets turned off, and that's pretty neat because I guess there's like they do all their sci-fi jargon, and like the gravity keeps pulling in different directions, so they're flying all over the place.
Kind of like the scene in Inception where they're in the hallway.
Yeah,
and they have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Get to the elevator.
Yeah, the scene in Inception though makes sense because there's a goal.
Yeah,
and somebody's trying to do something, even though it's in a dream. But it's definitely a movie worth checking out. It's just a shame that it wasn't like a heavier movie. Like in a few months' time, I will really have forgotten what the movie was about.
More just like a popcorn flick.
Yeah, which is, I guess, what Star Trek needs to stay alive.
Yeah, it was a summer movie, so that's what you expect. And I think, who's the director? Justin Lin, I think, directed it.
Yeah.
He's done the Fast and the Furious movies.
He's
right?
done all the really good Fast and the Furious movies. I think
none of which I have seen.
Oh, Ray.
I've only seen the older ones. It just doesn't interest me. I don't know.
No, you gotta don't forget about the first three.
Well, the first one's an awesome movie.
First one exists, and then the second one is
Point Break with race cars.
Yeah, basically, the second one is just a terrible, terrible movie. I don't know why the series continued after the second one.
And then you got the third one, which is
Tokyo Drift.
Yeah,
which everyone hates. I don't know why everybody hates it. I liked Tokyo Drift. Like it was
Lucas Black.
It was. I think it was just because there's no Vin Diesel and Paul Walker. But the fourth one is when it goes next level.
Yeah, that's what I hear, and it was one of the, honestly, I started watching the fourth one, and I just like couldn't get into it, and I haven't watched any of the other ones since.
You got to get to the fifth one is the best one. That's
Fast
when
Five.
Yeah, that's when The Rock, I think, I can't remember if The Rock shows up in 4 or 5, but when they're in Brazil, is an insane movie. It's so. I mean, they're all just terrible. But the 4, 5, 6, and even 7 are just phenomenal action movies. They're like, especially when you start reading into like how they make the movie, where they all have it in their contracts that they can't lose a fight.
Yes, I've heard this. Yeah,
and so they just keep adding cast members so that they can win a fight, and then that cast member then joins for the next movie, and then they can no longer lose a fight, and it's. They're just so stupid.
Oh, well, maybe that will be a project for me in upcoming weeks. Watch one of them. Well, I'll have to start with 4.
Yeah, you got to start with 4. I mean,
4 Fast, 4 Furious. That's what it's called, right? No.
I think it's Fast. It's Fast and Furious.
Yes,
what was the?
I was just joking.
I don't even know what's the 6th one even called? Because it was Furious 7.
I don't know.
Fast 5. Faster and more, whatever. Star Trek
Beyond.
Yeah, it's a great looking movie. Justin Lin was well utilized in it.
Great.
Yeah. So Ray, I watched a fun action movie. What did you see this week?
I watched another movie that also was great looking, but it just wasn't very good. I watched Crimson Peak. Guillermo del Toro's new film. Now, right off the bat, I gotta disclaim, I am not a fan of Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think he is highly overrated. I don't understand why he is looked upon as such a great director. He broke onto the scene with Pan's Labyrinth, which I think is a highly overrated movie. I don't understand why everybody loves Pan's Labyrinth so much.
I loved it.
Yeah, well,
I loved it.
Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. The Hellboy movies are good.
I can't get through them.
Yeah, I mean they're good, not great. I mean, if I were to pick my favorite Guillermo del Toro movie, it would probably be the first Hellboy, and that's not even that good of a movie.
Yeah, I've tried watching Hellboy, and I just can't
Right.
I just
and then you got
can't do it.
Blade 2, which stinks.
Oh, Blade 2 is the best one.
No.
Oh, man. Blade 2 is all. Are you sure you're not thinking Blade 3?
No, I
Blade
know.
3
I've
is
seen all the
terrible.
Blades. Blade Trinity.
Blade 2 is awesome. Isn't that the one where. Anyway.
Yeah. And then Pacific Rim, another movie that was just okay. Looked great, was just okay.
I love Pacific Rim.
So, obviously, you're a Guillermo del Toro fan. I am not. So he directed this 2015, so it came out pretty recently. It stars Mia Wasikowski, the girl from Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, the blonde
girl.
Blonde girl, okay.
Yeah, and I'm probably butchering her last name. Tom Hiddleston, who is another person that I don't really care for that much.
Oh, Loki from Avengers?
Right. I think we talked about him a couple weeks ago when I saw High Rise.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I just don't like him. I don't know what the deal is. Jessica Chastain and Charlie Hunnam, who is like a Guillermo del Toro like guy now. He's in all his movies now.
Okay.
The guy from Sons of Anarchy, who plays Jax.
I don't watch it.
He's also from Green Street Hooligans.
Oh, I hear that's a great movie.
Yeah.
That's
Anyway, this guy is British, but he always plays.
Oh, is it the dude in Pacific Rim who's the
Yes,
main guy?
Yeah, he's British, but he always plays American
Low rank
characters.
Channing Tatum.
Right, and he has a terrible, terrible American
He
accent.
really does.
Like it's horrible.
Yeah.
And even in Sons of Anarchy, which is a show that I watched and I really liked and I loved, somehow like you're able to just look past that.
Mm-hmm.
And in a movie like this, where there are British people in the movie, they chose to make him American, and it's just like, just let him speak in his regular accent because it's so horrible. Like,
Yeah.
like it's one of those things where I just can't get past it.
Yeah, in Pacific Rim, I always just fast forward to the robot fighting.
Yeah,
But
that's always rain. That's
but
always
he's-
in the rain and at nighttime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raining at night so you can't see the bad effects. But he talks, he's like, when the Jaegers first. It sounds like what's his name from Highlander talking? Christopher Lambert. It sounds like Christopher Lambert talking. He sounds like a guy who doesn't speak English, speaking phonetically.
So, right, going in, I already am like not expecting much just because I don't like Guillermo del Toro.
Right.
But I give all his movies a chance. I see all his movies. So Pacific Rim, or not Pacific Rim, Crimson Peak is just a movie that doesn't know what it wants to be. So it was marketed as a horror film. If you saw the trailers and stuff for
Right.
when it
That's
came out
what
before.
I thought it was.
And that's what they marketed it as. And it's not a horror film at all. I would more consider it like a gothic romance in some way.
Oh, fancy.
But the romance is not even like it's just like empty. Like there's no chemistry between the characters. So basically, Mia Wasikowski, however you pronounce her name, she plays Edith, who is a 20-something young author living in Buffalo, New York, with her father. Her mother has previously passed away. There's a little backstory there about that. Like she's seen her mother's ghost before. So right at the beginning of the movie, they introduced like the ghosts are like real. Like I think she says like ghosts are real. That much I know is what she says in the beginning of the film. Mm-hmm. It's like ghosts are real. Ghosts are among us. Like ghosts are going to be a part of this movie. So she lives in Buffalo with her father, and her father's like this rich like tycoon who like takes on investors, and he's just like a rich guy who has his hand in a bunch of different things. So Tom Hiddleston shows up to Buffalo, New York with his sister, played by Jessica Chastain, and he pitches an idea for mining clay. Apparently his house, him and his sister inherited a large chunk of land when their parents died, and they live on basically like clay mines, and he wants to mine clay. He pitches the idea like the clay that they live on is great for creating bricks and building houses, and that's his like pitch to Edith's father. The movie, by the way, takes place in like the early 1900s. So it's like way back.
Sure.
Right away, Edith's father doesn't see something right about Tom Hiddleston. He's just like, something's like slimy about him. He makes a comment about like how he shows him his hands, and he's like, you see my hands? He's like, I've been working my whole life with these hands. He's like, and I shook your hand, and your hands just feel like delicate and like that you've never done like a hard day of work in your life.
Right.
He just seems like a slime ball. But he makes an immediate impression on Edith. He's very charming, charismatic.
Tom Hiddleston's the one with the smooth hands?
Right.
Okay.
Tom Hiddleston's got some smooth hands.
Mm-hmm.
So him and Edith kind of hit it off. And immediately her father sees that they're hitting it off, and he immediately is like, no, I don't want you with this guy. This guy's weird. Like, he seems like a slime ball, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets to the point where he tries to convince Edith to marry him and come with him come back to England. He's British. Him and Jessica Chastain are British. To come back with him to their house, to his land, and live with him. She proposes it to her father. He's like, absolutely not. Like I said, this guy's like, I don't trust this guy.
Right.
He even gets his friend to look into past business ventures from Tom Hiddleston, and even sees there, like, he's had so many failed ventures. He's constantly trying to get money from people to invest in his land to mine clay, and just nobody will do it, which is immediate red flag.
Just loves clay.
Right, he just loves the clay that he lives on. So, mysteriously, Edith's father is killed.
No.
And after she is killed, Tom Hiddleston tells Edith that, like, your father tried to convince me to leave. He didn't want us to be together, but I know that we were meant to be together. I know that, like, this is like truthful. And all the while, Jessica Chastain, Tom Hiddleston's sister, is like not into this at all. She's like, why you want to be with this girl? But at the same time, you could see that they're working together for some goal,
mm-hmm.
and they need her for some reason. They keep saying, all right, like, we'll get her, but like, this can't last long. Like, all this stuff. So they finally get her to come out to England with them. He marries her.
Oh, okay.
All the while, Charlie Hunnam, like I said, the guy from Sons of Anarchy,
right?
He is the same way as her father, being like, I don't trust this guy. He's her friend, like, from way back. There was never like a romance hinted at it. It was kind of like they just been friends since they were kids.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, same thing. I don't trust this guy. But anyway, she doesn't listen to anybody. Her father dies. She doesn't even question about how he dies.
Girls.
She just goes. So then that's like the launching point for the story. And she gets to the land where they live, and the enormous house that they live in. That's creepy and scary. The house looks great in this movie. It's just like it's just so creepy looking. Like, all kinds of different rooms, and like the coloring, like the way they shot it is great. Like, all the way they did the lighting, everything just looks awesome. And she gets to the house, and she immediately realizes that the house is haunted. But there's like never any like jump scares or anything. They show you ghosts every once in a while, like her seeing a ghost like peek out from a corner, or her hearing something. It just never really like, and I'm like scared very easily. And maybe this movie wasn't trying to like scare you in that way,
right?
But it just seemed like very like bland, and like as soon as you get to the house, you're like, oh, this is like creepy, really creepy house. And like as the movie goes on, you're like, I'm not scared of this at all. Like, there's nothing that's scary, and the ghosts really aren't explained. And eventually, there's like a twist towards the end of the film that you see coming from a mile away, and they kind of build it up to the point where like something's about to happen, and when they reveal the twist, they make it seem like they make a big deal out of it, and you're like, yeah, like I had that figured out. Like
look how smart we are.
Yeah, I had that figured out, like the whole movie.
Okay. Sure.
And at the same time too, like it's trying to figure out if this is want to be a horror movie. Does this want to be like a movie just about like two conniving brother and sister who are trying to make money off of a business venture that nobody will invest in? So you never really get the motivations of the characters. Edith, who is the main character, is just like stupid. Like, she just believes everything Tom Hiddleston says. There's never any like aha moment with her. Like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm in this like creepy old house on the other side of the world, like with like a guy I barely know, and like he's not paying attention to me. Maybe I should leave. Like, maybe I should get out of this. Mm-hmm. But she has no family. Her father's dead, so I guess she just goes along with it. I just wasn't into the whole story the whole time. I just thought it was, like I said, I just thought it was bland, and like it was marketed as a horror movie. And I understand if it was marketed that way, and maybe Guillermo del Toro didn't want it to be that way. He wanted it to be more of a romance story, but the romance story is bland. The scares are bland. Like I said, the movie looks great. Like the costumes are great. The lighting's great. All the sets are all really cool looking. The house is set on top of like a clay mine, so like there's always like red coming up from the bottom of the house, and not just like in like a fake way, like it's the soil. Like when it rains, the soil turns red. So I mean,
like the ground bleeds.
Right, it looks like the ground bleeds, exactly. So that part was cool. It was just like the movie just didn't stick with me, and I just thought the story was just weak. And it just affirmed my hatred for Guillermo del Toro and his overrated movies that he makes.
Do you think, now of course I haven't seen it, but like, do you think that the movie was trying to be a throwback to, like you said, like a gothic horror kind of movie?
So yeah, I will say that he seemed like he was trying to pay homage to older films. And if you know anything about Guillermo del Toro, he's a very very well versed in like old film, and is always stealing. I guess which a lot of directors do. They steal from other things, but he's one to steal from stuff way in the past,
right?
And try to use that to his advantage and make it new again.
Because listening to you describe it, and maybe it's only because you said the gothic stuff, but it reminds me of like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein kind of a thing, where you're never going to have another good Frankenstein movie, but everybody's going to keep trying, but it's a story that doesn't work.
And this is kind of like
today's
with today's
mindset,
or the society,
today's sensibilities.
Yeah. And that's what I think he tried to do, was he tried to make a horror movie, but he didn't want it to be a horror movie. He wanted the horror to be like kind of a side note.
Right.
But then there's no main course. There's no like there's a bunch of side dishes, but there's no main course. There's no like, the film just has no identity, and it's the whole movie. It's constantly like flipping the script and trying to change into something that it's not, and it's just like, it's like, where is this going? So I mean, like I said, it definitely looks great if you into stuff like that, like set design, lighting. The special effects were like, the ghosts were, even those were very hokey and cartoony. But that's another thing. Guillermo del Toro is very hokey and comic booky sometimes with the way he does stuff. If you've ever seen this TV show The Strain, which is his as well, which actually I do like that show. That's one thing of his that I do like. It's based on
the disease.
Yeah, it's based on a comic book that him and his friend wrote.
Okay.
And he's like a producer on it. But it's the same type of thing. It's very, very stylized, very like comic booky, graphic novel-y.
Yeah. I will say all of his movies are very nice to look at.
Yes.
Like they're very visual feasts, if you will. Pacific Rim, for example, like you were saying, though, is very special effects driven. But anytime you see a movie in the dark in the rain,
right,
means they're hiding lots of flaws. But it's been so long since I've seen Pan's Labyrinth, but that's another movie where it's very visual, and isn't it all in Spanish?
Yes.
I don't remember if
It takes place in Spain, actually.
Yeah, and that I think has a great story, but I'll agree with you. Like most of his other stuff doesn't have a very good story. It's just a very fun to look at. But well, now I won't watch Crimson Peak.
Well, no, you still can watch it. I don't want to turn anybody away from something. Obviously, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And like I said, I'm not a big fan of Guillermo del Toro, so my view may be skewed a little bit.
Ray says you're wrong if you like it. That brings us to this week's answers to Tony's trick or treat question from last week. Tony's question was, what's your favorite movie that takes place in an amusement park?
Oh,
we had a lot of answers. Jackie says Jurassic Park, which is just a great movie. And Liz says Zombieland, which was a great answer. Zombieland's fantastic. I love that movie. Then Ray, your random request from last week was, what's your favorite adult-centric kids movie, like Stand By Me or The Goonies? And Liz says Elf, which I don't.
No, that's not. That's misinterpreting the question. But sure, I actually. if we want to be honest here, I despise the movie Elf.
What?
Yes.
How is that possible?
I just don't like it.
No way.
So there's that. Elf sucks.
Oh, that can't be true. And those are all the big responses for the questions this past week.
Yeah, it was kind of a weak question by me. Tony's question was better. Answer to Tony's question, Adventureland.
I hated Adventureland.
See, that's a good movie.
No, I hated that movie. That's a movie that I wanted to like, and I was the whole time just, I just couldn't do it.
All right then.
Regular host of the show, Dan. He's been on twice now. He says one of us needs to watch The Wraith. I don't remember if I said this last week or if it came in this week, but he says we need to watch that. I think Charlie brought that up a couple months back, but he says to watch that. Then he says he wants us to name a bad movie, like a terrible movie that had a great scene that made it memorable. I hate to spring it on you right at the end, but I just looked at it. I just remembered it was there. Now Dan gives a phenomenal example.
Okay.
With he says the movie Fire in the Sky, he says, was not good. Disagree. But the scene with the abduction, where I've
never seen Fire in the Sky.
Oh, dude, you got to watch Fire in the Sky. It's awesome. It's based on a true story about a group of loggers. I'm going to say woodsmen. Mm-hmm. What are those? Lumberjacks. Yeah.
Woodsmen.
They help out They help out Red Riding Hood. They're coming back from a day of work, and they see this light in the sky. One of the guys gets out of the truck, approaches it, and is sucked up into the sky by aliens. The 3 or 4 other guys in the truck drive away, and there's this big investigation where everyone basically believed that these guys murdered that guy. Wow. And they all passed their lie detector test. They all basically tell the same story. And lie detectors are, right, toss-ups anyway. But they all basically, their stories are all corroborated, blah, 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 blah. A few days later, the guy who's missing shows back up like a town over. In the movie, he shows up naked and he calls 911 from a payphone, like in shock and stuff. And basically says, yeah, I was abducted by aliens and whatnot. And then under hypnosis, he tells the story of what happened when he goes into the ship. And that is a scene that will haunt you for the rest of your life. I mean, it does for me. Like, I can see the entire thing right now, and it is scary as hell.
But it's not a very good movie.
I like it. It's got when you're watching it, it has a very made-for-TV feel to it for a major motion picture, but totally worth watching. And then especially for the scene where he gets abducted, you're like, there's no way you don't watch every second of that. Like, what the hell is going on, man? Like, man, this is scary. Like, because if you put yourself in that guy's position where, I don't want to ruin any of it for you, but like where all this horrible stuff is happening to him and you're like, oh. And it was right around the time that the idea of the alien with the big head and the big eyes,
right, yeah,
was like coming, like that's, like that was when that was kind of new. So there's like the special effects makeup for the aliens walking around. You're like, oh no, I don't like this. When you watch it, you remember, for some reason Unsolved Mysteries keeps coming up on our show lately. But you remember on Unsolved Mysteries when they would do the alien segment or the ghost segment and you'd be like scared? Yeah. That's kind of how you feel watching this, but it goes on for forever.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
But it's based on a true story, and none of the people involved
wanted to be a part of it?
No, I think a few of them did because they wanted to get the story out. Now I'm just kind of making that up, trying to remember it. But like everybody's stories still all line up, and it's like one of those big UFO.
Hey, there's a lot of stories like that. They are among us. That's for sure.
Truth is out there, Ray.
I have an answer to the question.
Okay, good.
As we were talking,
I'm glad I came up with enough conversation.
It's kind of a weird answer. But the movie Belly with DMX and Nas.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay.
The opening scene to that movie is one of the best opening scenes of all time.
Is it?
It's just, and it's nothing really even happens. It's them. It's DMX and Nas walking through a club. It's like a strip club, like nightclub type deal. And there's like black lights and stuff. And there's a song playing. I forget what the song is called.
Is it Up in Here?
No, it's a remake. It's like a slowed down version of an 80s like R&B song. And Hype Williams directed the movie, and he's a music video director. Mm-hmm. The movie's terrible.
Right.
But
I've never seen it.
But the because I mean just DMX and Nas just can't act.
I feel like I always thought that movie was about Biggie.
No.
Isn't there like a big dude in a white shirt on the cover?
I think it might be, yeah. But I think it's DMX on the cover.
Was DMX heavy at the time?
No. Anyway, like it's just them walking through this club, and like the lighting, it looks like a music video.
Yeah.
And like the lighting and the music is just something always like sits with me. Like if I ever see it on, if I know it's gonna come on, I watch it and then I just turn it off because the movie's garbage.
Right. But the beginning is really
the first
cool.
I think it's like a 3 to 5 minute scene of them just like walking through this club, with this song playing and like the stuff that's going on. And I think they eventually they something gets robbed or whatever. There's like gunshots and stuff. There's like a shootout, but it's just really cool.
I would have to say, and I think I brought it up a few weeks ago, but an opening scene to the movie Ultraviolet.
I've never seen it.
I don't.
But yeah, you've talked about this before. Yeah.
Yeah. The opening sequence to Ultraviolet is the coolest 5 minutes of a movie ever, and then nope, it gets so bad. I honestly can't even remember what the opening of the movie is about, but I remember loving it. I just loved it so much, and then the movie is so bad. But yeah, Ultraviolet. And you, dear listener at home, if you have a response for Dan's Dastardly QuestiDan,
great question.
Name a movie. Name a bad movie that has a great scene. You know, let us know, and we'll let Dan know. Ray?
We'll read it on the air.
Do you have a RaysRayndomRayquest?
Yes. This week, I talked about Guillermo del Toro and how I don't like him. And my question was gonna be, is there a director you don't like? But I feel like that's a little tough for some people to answer. Mm-hmm. So my question is gonna be, is there a particular actor or actress that you just don't care for? Like I said, Tom Hiddleston is just a guy that there's nothing he does that's wrong. I just look at him like, I don't like this guy. I just don't like his face.
Yeah, just don't like what he does for me. Yeah. I would have said Colin Farrell.
Yeah,
he's really turned it around.
Yeah. Have you seen The Lobster yet?
No, not yet. It's on the list. I saw that Total Recall, which didn't help him out, but
right. Another answer for me would be Bill Paxton. I can't stand Bill Paxton.
Oh, man. That's Bill. Oh, he tries so hard.
He's just so bad.
Oh, but man, him in True Lies is just great. Oh, man.
Yeah, he just annoys me. I'm annoyed by him.
Oh, I'm have to think about it. There's plenty of actors I can't stand.
There's a lot of actresses I can't stand, but I won't get into all them. I can't stand Amy Schumer.
I haven't seen very many.
I can't stand Tina Fey.
Oh, I love Tina Fey.
I can't stand her.
I think she's the best.
She thinks she's so smug.
She's so funny.
No, she's not.
Oh man.
But yeah, I'm sure our listeners have a lot of.
I would love to hear what our listeners have to say about it.
Yeah.
And then I'll think about it, and then I'll get back to you in next week's week 42.
Wow, 42.
We're almost at the year. We're almost at the year.
Yeah. Will that be close to the 50?
I think at 52 is when we do it, right?
Okay.
I don't know. We're gonna have to check the archives on that one. I thought
we'll get
at
back
some
to
point I started counting better than in other weeks. But maybe we'll do like a best of episode. That would really give me some time, as I have some life-changing events fast approaching. So hey, listeners, here's Nick's Neato whatever. Do you have any favorite This Week in Film moments that you would love featured in a best of episode? Let us know.
Or like or a particular movie that you thought we reviewed good, or that we ripped apart.
Yeah.
Good. Batman vs. Superman.
Which time? And all right. If you're listening to us on the Podcast Radio Network, you can find us here every Wednesday night at 10:30. If you want to find some more of us, check us out on your favorite podcasting app. We're This Week in Film Podcast. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, or thisweekinfilmpodcast.com to answer our many, many questions from this week. And I think that'll be any plugs this week, Ray?
No, I got no plugs.
I also don't. I'll check out Charlie's book. I think that comes out to your local comic book store in the next week. Get your pre-orders in now. Show Charlie some love. And
show your love.
If that's the end of the reel, we'll see you next week in film.
See ya.